Okay, let's get started here. Dan, can you hear us? Okay. Alrighty, minutes from our last meeting. Everyone have a chance to take a look? If there's no changes, would someone make a motion to accept? Joe?
I'll second.
Dave, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Budget report is attached. On the revenue side, our annual administrative fee we received from Huffman's for $400. The quarterly payment or the payment from Winstanley for the option was been received with some interest earnings also shown there. On the expenditure side, salary, the payment towards Weston Companies for their work on this year's audit, which you're going to hear about in a few minutes. Monthly payment for work on the IDA's website. The payment that was sent to Mohawk Valley Economic Development District for the sponsorship of their upcoming what is it called? Workshop Summit, Brownfield Summit, that you agreed to at your last meeting. And down at the bottom, and semi-annual payment for insurance out at Triumph was made. So we had total expenditures of 10,000 and change, and revenues shown up above it, a little over 26 for the month.
Good month.
Pretty straightforward. Budget report. Any questions? None? Someone make a motion to accept? I'll make a motion. Mike, is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Joe. Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed? Very good. Monthly bank reconciliation, Dave, that nice brief short report that you just reviewed.
Yeah, I reviewed it, just signed it this morning. Everything looks to be in order. I will suggest maybe we as a board consider a way for Carol to consolidate some of that information. I don't know what you guys find, or Joe, maybe I think.
Bills and stuff.
It's-
5 different ones.
It's a slog to get through, so
37 page.
I'll give it some thought and maybe put some suggestions down on paper.
Fair enough.
I mean,
I will get together with Carol and together see what we can come up with.
I'm sure it's not something that couldn't be solved by sitting down and actually reading the words, but that's a lot of words to go through and a lot of numbers to sift
57
through.
pages is a lot.
And
No question.
so just thinking in terms of trying to find a format that works a little bit better than what we've been reviewing. Oh, great.
Right, great.
But everything is in order.
Okay. CRG report, Terry.
Good
Terry, still there?
morning.
Good
Yep,
morning.
I'm here. We'll be assessing availability of the grant money to remove the drums of fashion tanning. Final redevelopment plan for fashion tanning should be ready within the next 30 days. We were awarded a Fast New York grant for engineering at the proposed Johnstown Commerce Park site. And we completed the audit process. Weston Company issued an unmodified opinion. That is the best opinion we can receive. Gloversville Downtown Development Specialist continues to meet with DRI project awardees and is currently working on capital stacking process of each project. Gloversville DDS continues to work with downtown related activities, including the local waterfront revitalization program and the city's brownfield opportunity area. Micro Enterprise grant for $300,000 continues to move through the process. Grant awarded announcement of our $500,000 brownfield assessment grant application should take place in April. And currently looking for additional brownfield sites. New York State ESD came out with their Restore New York program and is now accepting applications. Northern Border Regional Commission's pre-applications are due March 15th. And we were invited to attend the workforce development presentation sponsored by CSARCH.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. The speaker, Denise, how do you pronounce her last name?
Risky, I think.
Yeah.
Ziski?
Yeah.
Okay. the event provided high-end networking opportunities. And CRG was invited to attend a market presentation by CBR. The event enabled high-end networking. The Council General of Canada in New York invited CRG to attend a networking reception. We met with the council and discussed what Fulton County has to offer Canadian companies in need of New York presence or companies looking to expand. The event enabled high-end networking. Our efforts paid off with the New York Loves Nano. CRG was able to get 4 locations. One SUNY FMCC, Electromagnetics, Trion Technology, and the proposed Johnstown Commerce. And their website is in the process of being updated and to incorporate the latest information. We met with New York State and requested money from the state to reinvigorate our loan pools. And New York State Economic Development Council recently held their 2024 Economic Development Conference. It was a great session. There was a great session on IDA housing best practices. It is suggested that the IDA get actively involved with the New York State Economic Development Council. And that is our report.
Very good. Any questions for Terry?
What are high-end networking opportunities?
I was not there, so I will have Ron explain that to you. I'll have him reach out.
It's used 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a sense of what it is, but I'm a little curious what it means.
I would certainly be happy to have him reach out to you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Terry. Okay, we're gonna jump ahead to page 3 of our agenda. We have representatives from the Weston Company here today to review and present their audit of our financial statements. Amy, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. For those of you that haven't met me, I think I've met everybody, but I'm Amy Petrick, a partner with Weston Company. I'm back on my 5-year rotation. As per the ABO, there has to be a mandatory 5-year partner rotation. Michael's here to officially hand it over to me this year, but he's here in case there's any questions and that kind of with any historical data. So you guys all have your drafts. The audit went very well. We were able to issue, as we had in the past, an unmodified opinion, which is, as Terry mentioned, for CRG, it's the highest opinion we give as a profession and what the IDA has received in the past. So that's the first couple pages in the thicker financial statements. That's pages 1 through 3. And as you've seen in the past couple of years, the opinion format changed a little bit. It talks about our opinion in the beginning, and then it goes on to discuss management's responsibility and then my responsibility as your auditor. Then after the opinion, we have management's discussion and analysis. This goes on for quite a few pages. What this does is it allows management to put a lot of narrative into the document, to give more meaning to the numbers, to kind of give some more sense of what the activities of the IDA are and what you guys have going on through the year that maybe isn't reflective in the actual numbers of the financial statements, but allows the reader to see what you have going on. And this comes right from Jim, 90% of these 12 pages. So if you go to page 5, that starts Jim's narrative. It talks about your pilot projects that you have. It talked about CG Roxanne ending in 2023. The next page on 6 talks about Benjamin Moore, Vario, Hoffman, the actual projects that you have continuing, and then further goes on to talk about all your activities for 2023. Also in the MD&A, after the narrative provided by management, if you go to page 14, we have our summary of financial results. So the financial statements themselves are presented in a single year format, and I'll show you those when we get there. But this part actually did give some comparison to prior year and shows, what 2023 it was versus 2022. So page 14 is the summary of the financials of the balance sheet or your statement of net position. So your current assets you'll see went down along with your current liabilities. And that was really the withdrawal of the city of Johnstown money during the year, the $300,000 that got withdrew from and sent back to the city. So that's really that significant change. And except for the current liabilities, we are holding the deposit, the option for Win Stanley in there, the $99,000 as a liability deposit. So that's most of the $100,000 that's sitting there. And then on the next page on 15, we have the comparison for our income statement, the changes in that position. So you'll see your revenues compared to last year, total revenues about 71 compared to 83,000. You'll see that we have a large realized and unrealized gain. Those are your earnings on your T-bills, on your securities that you have. So that was the earnings this year, about $41,000. And then our expenses, pretty comparable to prior year, 128 versus 110. So our net position went down 57,000 versus the $27,000 last year. And then after the MD&A, so I talked about the numbers, I'll just show you the statements. Page 17 is the single year statement. It breaks down the liabilities a little bit more in detail and breaks down your assets a little bit more in detail, but it's just the single year. So you have the breakdown of your investments, your cash and banking, you still have a little bit of restricted cash. That's due to the city of Johnstown.
Amy, can I
Yes.
just, I know you probably gotta keep going, but the deposits, the 99,970, you said it was tied into with the Quinn Stanley?
Yeah, so that's the deposit on the purchase. So we have to record that as a liability, as a deposit liability until and if it either comes to fruition or can't think of the right word. Forego the option that they choose not to purchase. And then you guys get to keep it as revenue. So it's not really revenue until something happens with the property.
Okay. I didn't know they had a deposit.
It's the option.
Well, options on 25,000.
But that was the year before, that contingent upon the sale.
It's not contingent
No,
upon the
it's
sale.
not contingent upon the sale.
No, we got that.
Yes,
But if there is no sale, do you keep that money?
yes,
Yes.
Okay, okay,
yes,
okay.
okay.
100,000 the year before, this is 25,000 was this year.
There's a 20.
Right, I know
Right,
that,
right.
but we
No,
don't
Okay.
that 100 is,
keep that. We keep
Yes.
that.
Okay, so we can
Yeah, so-
reclassify that in this draft then. If it's not contingent upon the sale and if it's all your money, no matter what.
our money.
But Michael, I'm sorry, did you have anything when you were reading through it either on that at all?
I just thought it said, option. I thought it talked about an option.
An option agreement.
It is an option, correct, in terms of well, originally were gonna be, entered into a purchase and sale agreement, where they were gonna buy all the land,
Yes.
okay? For whatever reasons, a number of reasons, that, they chose not to buy it at that time, okay? And we converted the purchase and sale agreement to an option agreement. All right, and when we converted that to an option agreement, they agreed to make a year one payment of $100,000 for the right of getting that option. Okay, but that was not going to be a contingent payment. That was just a payment upfront to the IDA for the ability for them to be able to get the option.
They bought a license for the option.
Right.
So that's a little different than the normal option that we have.
Gotcha.
So then we'll reclassify that
Okay.
to revenue.
Yeah.
If that's the case, that's different than you have an option. A year from now, I'm gonna buy the property or not buy the property. So we hold it as a liability until which case that happens.
Transaction occurs with one way or the other, but
So now
okay.
if you're saying there is nothing, if they walk away or you throw them out,
We can't.
you just keep the
That's correct.
99,000, then it is then revenue. So the
Right.
25,000 is revenue too, or is that
Correct.
another option?
It's year two of the same option agreement, but the payment went from 100 to 25 this year.
And again, nothing. If you sell the property,
No, we can't sell it.
If we sell it, if we don't sell it, if nothing happens, we still keep the 25 this year,
And if they walk away, we still keep
and we
it.
still keep the 25, correct?
so either way,
It's always gonna be.
It's a revenue.
For us.
it's a revenue.
It's a revenue, correct?
Okay,
It's not a contingent revenue, it is a,
but you can't sell the property.
We can't, no.
no,
Okay,
with them,
We can sell to them.
you can sell to them.
correct?
Or they can say no, they don't wanna buy it, if they have another option.
Every year in December, they let us know where they want to renew the option. And at the price that they are willing to pay, they came back to us saying,
All right, so that's a different type of option. I can see that being revenue then.
Okay,
So we will reclassify that, include that in revenue. And so when you get the revised draft, you'll just see that liability now will just be 967. You'll have an increase of the revenue of the 99. That's not.
so put up, yeah.
Yep.
Just to clarify that.
So then you'll see that change reflected on page 18 as well. You'll see an increase in the revenue, the general revenue for that amount. which will then change your net position to be a decrease to an increase.
Mhm.
Okay, then after the financial statement, starting on page 20, we have the footnotes. These are really unchanged from prior years. It gives more description to the organization, what your significant accounting policies are, and some more detail to some of the numbers in the financial statements. So it just talks about page 21 has that little bit of restricted cash still out there for the city of Johnstown. We have also on that page, the small land sale that we had, described there.
And just for a quick second, with respect to that city of Johnstown,
Yeah.
that little bit that's left in there.
Yeah.
Was the interest that came due on the money that we paid them.
300,000.
Okay, so that's what that is. We paid them everything that we had in that account, but we also knew that there was gonna be an interest coming in for that month, and that's what that is. And so we're keeping that account open with that amount in there.
Do they want the money, or do we let them know they do have a little bit more money in, or how does that happen?
They said to keep that,
Keep
so
that.
they can keep that account open in the event that there's one more sale. Because we have one
I
tract.
know
of land
there's one
there,
more.
so-
Okay, good deal.
Yep.
And then on page 22, your park values are listed between Crossroads, Industrial Business, Johnstown, and the Tryon Tech Park. Our long-term debt, which remains unchanged, since 2005. It's just the balances from the city of Gloversville, Water Commissioners, Community Development Agency, promote Gloversville, and the EDC.
So can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
I think I ask every year.
Mhm.
Since the EDC no longer technically exists and we sold a piece of property, where would that money go?
That would probably be just, I would say you'd have to go back to the original loan agreement or talk to the attorneys to see when EDC dissolved, what happened to that. That I couldn't tell you without legal or the original, really re-looking back into that original agreement.
It doesn't say.
So, yeah.
I can tell you that, so.
So it'd probably be more of an attorney question, just to make sure that if it's okay for you guys to take that money and keep that part of it for yourselves versus.
I think we're nice guys.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Just some legally, dot your i's and cross your t's and make sure, but yeah, because if since it doesn't exist, if there's no legacy, organization that would remain to take it, yeah. So then after that, we have another opinion starting on page 25. So because you're a governmental audit, you have to do a report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance. And this has no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses to note, so it's a clean opinion here as well. And then after that, we just have the bond schedule, what's remaining on the YMCA bond, and then we are required to attach your code of ethics. And then once it's all finalized, Jim and Carol will sign and certify the financial statements.
Yes. I've got a question. It's more about process. I've seen over the years a number of these financial statement, these audit reports and such. They all carry the same basic kind of format.
Yep.
So I'm guessing there's a certain amount of pro forma effort placed into this kind of thing.
Yep.
And you're just filling in a lot of the blanks specific to each entity that you're auditing.
Mhm.
I am curious though, what are we providing on an annual basis for you to be reviewing, to make the assessments that you're reviewing? I'm curious about that. Like, what is the interaction between the two organizations?
So we get from Jim and Carol a whole bunch of documents, and those contain those budget reports. We get the check activity detail. We get copies of all the invoices, the board minutes, details of any land sales, any projects, any of that stuff that's new this year. We get all that information. We go through that, we tie out the numbers. So for example, cash, we take them back to a bank statement. The treasury bills, we take them back to that statement. We vouch the invoices, anything significant. When we audit, we look at the concept of materiality. So we're not looking at every little invoice and every little transaction, but anything over our dollar amount specific to materiality, we have to either look at or inquire about or do testing on. So we get all that stuff from Carol and Jim. We combine all that information and then into this financial statement. So on our end, in our office, this, like you said, the financial statement gets performed. We update for the current year activity that we've tested and gotten comfort on that we're okay with the numbers. And then we update the footnotes or disclosures for anything new that may have happened this year. Jim gives us the MD&A document, which has all the activities information. So we get that from him. We then provide the drafts to Jim and Carol. They've had them for a couple weeks. to review in advance, or maybe a week or so, to review in advance of the meeting to make sure they're comfortable with everything, before it comes to the board. So we don't come on site, but we get everything from them and go through it.
That 60 pages that you looked at for this month, times 12,
Okay,
okay, is the heart of what we send to them.
okay,
It's literally pile of paper that Carol generates 95% of it through her work, okay? And that's what it is.
okay.
Everything that she does is basically sent to her. Every record that we have
Mhm.
is sent for them to take a look at, and then they come back here and say, you know, that everything that was done was done correctly.
And then if we have any significant policy changes, you'll provide that information in written form as well.
Correct.
Okay,
And we do, like, I do a thorough read through of the board minutes to make sure that I'm aware of everything that's happened during the year that could have an impact onto the financial statements. The controls documentation that you have to provide to the ABO, we get that from Jim to, you know, say what your procedures and everything are, and we look at that as well. So,
okay.
Yep.
All right, cool.
Every year, we management look at our internal financial controls to see, is there any suggested changes that we want to make to the board based upon something that came up during the year. I review, you know, with you, each year at our annual meeting, those internal financial controls, so that if anybody here found something that you would think would serve us better, you could make that, you know, changes to our policy that, for the internal financial control. So it is something that we do on a regular basis.
Mhm.
You know, the last big change that we made, and we made a number of smaller ones, but the biggest one that we made recently was having two signatures on every check that was made. You know, because before it was just the CFO writing the checks. But, you know, issues came up. I think Mike had raised that a number of years ago. And so now we have to have one of the four members of the audit committee are authorized to sign checks in addition to Carol. So
Mhm.
and that's one of the controls that we actually test. So we pick a number of disbursements and we look to make sure the signatures that are required to be there are
So
there.
when you're testing, you're not looking at everything that we've signed, you're taking a randomized sample to make
Based on the
sure.
number of transactions, we'll
Yeah.
test those controls, we'll test the balances,
Yeah.
you know, read the board minutes, do some inquiries, things like that. But we do look to make sure the controls you say you have, that we feel are significant to our audit, and those check controls and the signing controls we do feel are significant, and we can test those.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, and they, you know, as a banker, when I see a financial statement, there's 3 levels, there's compiled, reviewed, and audit. Audit has the most scrutiny
Yep.
by the CPA firm. If you get a compile, you're probably not gonna get the notes to
Mhm.
explain the background of the transactions, and the CPA's done some work, but compiled to rely more on the business to put the information together.
Yeah.
Where, I think you said, there's a significant amount of testing and review that goes into audit to make sure that, you know,
Mhm.
the organization is correctly doing their financial
Mhm.
reporting.
Mhm.
And also annually, as part of the audit, we do a risk assessment process, which is kind of separate of the organizational, we on our end, when we're looking at the controls and we get reacquainted, me getting reacquainted this year with the organization or each year on an update basis, assess the risk, see where the areas of risk are, where the unusual transactions may occur, what controls we need to look at. All that happens in the beginning part of the audit, which then kind of drives what we look at, what we test and what we review.
Sure, okay, cool,
Yep.
thanks.
Could I
Yeah.
talk about page 7 for a second? Again, sure. I think that we should maybe change a little wording. In the third paragraph up. It kind of, we're gonna change that 99,000.
Mhm.
And I don't know what we have to do here, but this kind of leads me to believe that we don't earn the money for 3 years. So if we could change this somehow to say like, 3 individual year options or something,
Mhm.
or renewable option each year. Because we're just saying we're entering a 3-year option, and then that would make me think that, oh, well, we don't earn the money
Until the
until
3
the
years.
end of the 3rd year.
Mhm.
So maybe Jim and I and Amy can just put a little sentence in there saying that each year it's a renewable
It's a
option or
1-year option
something.
renewal 2 times. It was.
Something like that, Jim.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
Just writing some notes down here.
Okay, because then that
That'll
would
help.
provide
Yep.
clarity
Yep.
that the 99 was earned and not owed out 2 years from now,
Mhm.
or earned 2 years from now.
Mhm.
Okay, and the 25 is earned.
Correct.
Okay,
So then the other part of the audit is the little document, and this is something that's been required over the last couple of years through the ADO and interschedule investments. This is my first year back where you guys actually have the investments. You used to, when I was here, say zero, because you just had the cash. So here we're issuing those same opinions, and it's again, clean opinions over that. Our investments on page 3 are 0 because they're all short-term. Within 1 year, but if you go to page 5, you can see our treasuries are 1.5 million. But they have maturities of less than 1 year, so they are listed in total unrestricted investments of 0 because of the short-term maturity. And that's just detailed here, and then we have to detail your permitted investments per your policy, and then again, we have that second opinion over controls, and that's, there are no significant deficiencies in material waste.
So even though these are US treasuries and money market and holdings.
Yep.
Because they're short-term investments, they're considered cash, basically.
Yeah, cash and cash equivalents based on policy, yeah. And then the last part that we do for the organization is we aid Jim in the submission of a couple parts of their Paris reporting. So these informations, the financials, once we adjust them and finalize them, everybody's okay with them, that information will go into Paris, along with some of the project information, which we're just finalizing now. There was some issues with some of the pilot billings from the cities. So that's all getting corrected, and we'll be able to put that pilot information into Paris and then get everything all set for your March 31st deadline.
Yes, Paris, my favorite thing.
Yes.
Any questions for Amy and Mike?
Thank you, Mike, for what you've done.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right,
All right, I will get a new draft off to you probably, if not today, tomorrow, so you can just look at that.
sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, folks.
Bye.
With that, while we're on page 4, would like someone to make a motion to approve the audit as presented.
No.
Dave?
Motion with the
With the
amendments that were suggested.
Second, Dave?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. If we can just jump back a little bit here to old business, I'm starting on page 2.
Excuse me,
Yes, sir.
do we have a county report? Because it's not listed here.
We don't. We don't have it listed, but Mr. Roll, is there
Yeah,
anything?
but
you report?
normally it's listed as,
Met yesterday. Approved a couple of resolutions for the new sewer district number 5 on 30 and 30A, and then a couple of resolutions for the county development strategy, including taking some money from you guys.
But MRB group was hired.
MRB group is hired, yes.
Very good. Thank you, Tom.
What about that outstanding presentation you saw?
Yeah, we heard a lot about the college yesterday. Guys droned on and on.
All right, Nexus Renewables, they have finally acquired the easement from Innovative Industrial Properties, the owner of the real estate out there with Barrios property. I had supposed to have a Teams call yesterday with Nexus, but that got canceled as I was getting started with the meeting. So I don't have anything further from them on that, but hopefully that is going to clear the way for that project to move forward this year. Yeah, I told her, but she'd already made it. So it's already been corrected on her machine for the notes. For Winstanley, we received their annual option payment, which we just discussed as part of the audit. And I sent them information on the New York Loves Nano website and stuff that Terry had talked about too, suggested that they include that information onto the Tryon website. Going to the top of page 3, our backup generator project and emergency repairs that were authorized at the last meeting. All those repairs have been made. I had emailed everyone a couple of weeks ago or 10 days ago or so about an additional expense that occurred as this work was being performed. As Adirondack Septic was out there, replacing the gate and check valves. A bunch of material that had built up in a pipe adjacent to the wet well let go, and a bunch of debris entered the bottom of the wet well. And Adirondack at the time saying, you can't, that's just dangerous to leave that there. And so the county facility staff guys who were there said, go ahead and pump it out. It was a cost of $1,100. I had emailed everybody about this and asked for feedback on whether or not we should consider paying that additional expense or not. I didn't receive responses back from everyone, so I wanted to just kick that around here again today to see what the consensus of the board is. With that, one of the two pieces of emergency work that we authorized out there was having general control systems tie in those floats back to the 911 center. There was some programming changes that had to get made. We asked them for a quote. They gave us a quote of $1,500 to do that work. They've completed the work, and the actual invoice that we got was for $590. So about $1,000, 11 or 900 and some dollars less than what we had originally authorized to do. Question for, I just want to get a consensus from folks on whether or not you have or you're interested or willing to pay this additional $1,100 or not. That's question number one. I know there's been responses both ways, but I'd just like to get a consensus from the majority which way you want to go.
So if we pay that, how much over the 15,000 of our commitment are we?
If we pay it,
$190.
couple $100 probably, $1,000 maybe. But as I mentioned in my one email to everybody, when this board agreed to pay for a certain amount of initial work at there, when we try to discuss an amount, that the 15,000 was kind of a number grabbed from here. It could have been 20, it could have been 10, there was no basis or logic behind a number.
But I think there was a comfort level.
There was a comfort level.
Comfort level with 15,000 as opposed to 20,000 or
Well, I don't think
50,000.
but we never talked about 20, we never talked 25.
Okay,
And again, that comfort level, there was 15, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't based upon, doing a certain amount of work, that's all I'm saying, so. If the consensus is no, we don't pay it, I didn't get a majority.
There were three of us, there were three of us that said we felt that we should be out of the sewer.
And one said, okay,
And one said,
and we
yes.
need, I didn't get four.
Right.
That's my point with all this.
My thought on that, if we did have that level of $15,000 set, we should spend up to that. So I mean, if we did save $910, I mean, if we're over $200, yes, pay it. And then I think at this point, we say any other further bills is a responsibility of the county. I'm not gonna nickel and dime dollars. But I think because we have paid what we want to, just like we're given, $25,000 at a level that we felt we want to spend for that. We didn't say 50,000 or whatever. So I think if we can pay all these bills, might be over a couple $100, and then say any other future bills.
Yes, because what I was going
That's my
to do
suggestion.
was to communicate with Mark Yost saying that the IDA board had previously agreed to spend this amount of money. Here is what we have spent. As such, we've met our commitment, and any further expenses would be the expenses of the sewer district. Just to get it on record that we've done what we originally agreed to do.
And do they still contact you, or you won't be contacted anymore at this point too? Because I mean,
Once that communication goes out.
right,
correct.
and then you let whomever,
Yep.
all right, good, because
Correct.
you've spent a lot of time doing
Yeah,
the sewer
But-
business too. So,
Well, let's
all right,
characterize something here real quick before we finalize this. I do want to state, I agree. I think it's time for us to get out of the sewer business once all of this is reconciled. But that being said, did we get an idea of what it would take to keep it from clogging in the future?
Are there like screens or meshes or? Yeah.
$2,175 to put a particular plug into that pipe. Okay,
Yeah.
I could pass this around if you have an interest, but yes, I did.
Okay.
If you would ask,
And that would be the county's responsibility or the sewer district's responsibility at that point.
correct.
Yeah.
If you don't want to pay it, yes, that's the only way it would get done, would be if the sewer district did.
So my recommendation would be to inform Mark that this is my recommendation, not a vote yet, but my recommendation is that we pay the balance of what's due and then notify Mark Yost, to your point, that we've met our obligation and they're gonna have to take up the task of installing this device so as to avoid further problem in the future.
Certainly do that.
Oh,
That's,
Or you want
I don't
to?
need to see it. I'm good.
No, that's why in my comment, it was brought up that, you know, what safeguards can we do? And that's why I made the comment. I think, you know, that's gonna lead to more expense and you just have to stop.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah,
I'm not insensitive to that. I also felt though, we shouldn't just bring the axe down mid-project. We're the ones that authorize the project. And so if it's spooled over a little bit, you know, I felt that was our obligation to take care of that, but it sounds like it's pretty negligible impact on things. So I'll make a motion
Based on what you said.
based on what I just said. You want me to summarize?
nope.
Okay.
I was paying the bill and then directing me to send a letter to Mark Yost saying we've met our obligation.
And advice,
With the
And
attached,
with the attachment,
Yeah.
saying that, you know, we recommend this be done.
right.
I would second that.
Okay? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone? Okay. Alrighty, T-bills, next meeting will be, looking to authorize renewal of, two of those. And we will also be, looking at what CD rates are, so we can compare the two, make sure we're getting the best, deal, at that time, so. Crossroads Business Park, at your last meeting, you authorized executing a listing agreement with Howard Hanna and authorized CBRE to prepare an appraisal on the 25 acre parcel in the Crossroads Business Park that you want to put up for sale for potential housing. That listing agreement has been executed. Howard Hanna is working on marketing materials and a sign. CBRE hopes to have their appraisal to me next week. I've contacted Mayor DeSantis recently to request to have the city remove the barricades that are sitting on Kathy's Way so that once we list it, if somebody wants to go see the property, they're going to be able to drive down there because they've had barricades up to keep people out of there.
It's open now.
To also run the street sweeper down there and do other things to try to make the area look as presentable as possible. I'm meeting with the mayor this week and to go out there and take a look at the property. And again, see what else the city may be able to do to help.
Yes, I have a question. On that property, is there any value to the timber that's on it?
Potentially,
Okay.
potentially. We did a timber harvest there a number of years ago, Scott, probably 20 years ago.
Wow, no.
Yeah. Because that we did the timber harvest and then a short time later, we did a wetlands investigation out there for a particular parcel of land. And when the tire track from the skidder that was back and forth there kind of silted in and there was a fern growing out of it. And they wanted to label that as a wetland. It's one of my least favorite stories about wetland regulations, but it's something we can take a look at.
Okay.
Scott and I we talked about this. And kind of the question was, it would generate revenue for us?
Right.
But would it make the property more or less appealing to a potential housing developer? It was a question. And so something we would have to consider, maybe if we were able to find someone who wants to buy that tract of land, we could certainly discuss with them, would you mind if we did that, or would you want to do it themselves? So it's a possibility.
Jim, is our goal to sell all 25 acres to one party or to piecemeal it as interest comes through?
It's going to depend on the interest, Joe. Okay.
Has there been any interest in it?
No, we haven't listed it yet. It's not officially listed. Okay. I think from an ideal standpoint, selling the whole tract at the price we're going to establish for it would be ideal. Okay. As opposed to trying to have 5 sales, one sale would be preferred. All right. But again, we don't know what the market's going to be. Okay. Okay, going on to new business. We did the audit. Next thing is the IDA's annual report, which I emailed to everybody. I'm sure everybody has looked at it in fine detail. But I do need, it's basically the stick document with, I still have to include the audit into it. It's a new format that we put in place a few years ago that the state mandates what has to be included in here. So, but I do need to have a motion to approve this audit and authorizing me to file it as required. Greg? Second, Joe? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone? Thank you. As the Honorable Tom Roll just mentioned, the County Board of Supervisors yesterday hired the MRB group to prepare the new development strategy for the county. This board had previously agreed to contribute $25,000 towards the cost of preparing that strategy. In discussing this with Kara, she recommended that we enter into a simple one-page agreement with the county that identifies how that payment would be made, which would basically be an upfront payment we would make to them. And so we put together literally a one-page agreement that stipulates that, as well as a few other miscellaneous things, and asking for a motion to authorize the chairman to execute that agreement.
What was the total cost of the?
$100,000.
All right, I was just wondering.
Okay. The county received 3 proposals. MRB's came in right at what was budgeted, so it ends up being good. Scott, John, Stead, Ron and I met with them. Quite impressed with the team that they are put together to work with us, the county, in preparing this audit, and looking forward to getting started.
Is Sandy gonna help them out? Right, Dave?
Remember
Sandy?
We didn't hear his name.
Presentation that we had, the CRG.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry, Mathis.
yeah.
So no Sandy.
So will someone make that motion to authorize, Mike?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Yes, please. Okay. Kara, I will be sending you this agreement for you to put your John Hancock on.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. And then I'll get the county board supervisors to sign it also. Okay. Brownfields Development Summer next month. Those who asked to be have been registered to go. So we will look forward to a report from that at our May meeting. And for board training for this month, just wanted to go through quickly here, the process that we use when projects come to the IDA. Usually starts with a phone call or a meeting between myself and the company. Explain to them the process, and talk to them about the project application that needs to get filled out. I asked them to send me an email, giving me a brief 2-3 paragraph description of their project, job creation, total private sector investment, and a few other things. I send that to Kara and say, Kara, take a look at this potential project. Per general municipal law, do you think this project is eligible for the IDA's financial incentives? Most of the time she writes back and says, yes, they are. I then go back to the applicant and say, all right, let's put together the actual project application. They send it to me in a draft. We go back and forth to make sure that it's all prepared correctly. And then it comes to me, I present it at the next board meeting to you folks. And then that starts usually 2 processes. One, if the project is asking for more than $150,000 or $100,000 of assistance, we have to schedule a public hearing. Kara schedules it. I attend, run the meeting, prepare notes, send them back to Kara. We then have to do a seeker review of the proposed project. And then we come back at the next meeting and we usually wrap up seeker and adopt a resolution that designates who the project operator is and authorize granting whatever financial incentives the board wants to grant to that particular project. And then after that meeting, Kara takes a number of actions, filing paperwork that's required to with the state, which usually is called an ST60 form. That ST60 form formally notifies the state that we have designated a particular company to receive financial incentives. Depending upon what incentives have been approved, other forms or pilot agreements are prepared and executed under Kara's guidance. I distribute seeker documents to wrap up the seeker process, and then a closing is held, at which time whatever administrative fee is due the IDA is paid to the IDA at that time. And also the company pays all legal fees that have been incurred by Kara in processing that project application. That's a capsule summary, but that's basically the same process that we use on every particular project. This process is included on the IDA's website, so anybody who is interested in looking to work with the IDA can review this and understand what that process is. So, but again, they go through this whole thing with companies when they express an interest in seeking IDA incentives.
At a certain point, do we ask for a deposit or don't they have to give?
They give us
$1,500.
it's $1,000 application fee that comes with the application, correct?
So they're more or less qualifying themselves. They're going to spend $1,000.
Correct. That's not
going to waste it.
That is not refundable. So.
I appreciate that because I had a situation where a person came to me that is looking at expansion, and I called Jim afterwards saying, how do I do it? Do you just give me your number? And so I don't know if anything of it has been done
Nope.
yet. All right, that's fine. But I did relay back that to the paragraph, gave them information to get a hold of Jim, and
We'll see.
so that's why it was very appropriate job training for us.
We've had discussion recently about housing, and we've made some changes in our pilot program to maybe incentivize houses. So in paragraph 1, we talked about new jobs being created, number of existing jobs. I know that I think Dave and Greg liked to IDA last year where they're states openly talking about promoting housing. Know that we don't necessarily get jobs created, but I know we were talking about housing development that they would be, was it to maintain or enhance the economic?
Right. Yep. Should we add that in the region?
Should we add that to paragraph?
We certainly can.
Yeah, it was allowing a broader definition of
Right.
economic impact,
Right,
not just jobs.
right. And that's why I thought we should probably expand paragraph one.
Yeah.
Okay, we can certainly do that. All right, that's all I have for open session, folks. I'm now asking to go into executive session, and for the reasons stated on page 7 of the agenda.
Before guys, kind of good seniors.
Someone make a motion for that?
I'll make the motion.
Dave,
Outside.
Joe,
Young, Mr. Laird, house.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye. So
Motion to close? Greg?
Oh, you're in trouble.
All right. Well,
Andy, are you saying a second?
You know, I got you down as a. Oh, no, Dan, oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I'll do a second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. We are done at 9:39 AM.
We'll go down together, Joe.